famed photographer. Wait till you hear some of the people that he shot in his distinguished career. And I love this quote. Many of your colleagues, Mario, have said, hey, we're here shooting photos, but Mario, he's making art. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
I know you're quite humble and you're probably saying, oh gosh, but it's true, Mario. You've had quite
Yes,
a career.
it's
So one, you have. And before we get into all of that, I love to start with how you started. So let's go back to Naples, where you were born, Naples, Italy. And you were roaming around there and you were a guy with a roaming eye. And it wasn't for the ladies, it was for traveling. Talk to me a little bit about who you were then.
well. I was just 18 and fresh out of high school, and you're right. I had a roaming eye, and I thought that photography would be a great opportunity for me to feed that appetite for a roaming eye, and it would offer me opportunities to see things that would never be the same, and travel, experience, and so photography was clearly an outlet for me of
Did you
exploration.
grow up? Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you grow up with a camera in your hand, or what was your family like, and when did you get that first camera?
No, I'm not a photographer's son. I had my first camera was when I was 18, 19, and my dad worked in HR and my mom was an elementary teacher, so different backgrounds, but I always felt inclined for the visual, for what could visually stimulate a viewer, and so camera was a perfect opportunity. I asked my dad to buy me a camera when I was 19. He obliged, and since then I started pursuing this passion.
Now, to see the world, you had signed up for what? Tell us about that. I found that
Well,
interesting. Although, go ahead.
yes, I did try for the Navy, and at 18 I passed all the tests, but I never showed. So I didn't show up, and I decided that maybe photography was more my path, and I think, and after all, it kind of was, because it brought me here, and then everything else happened.
Yeah. But how did you get your first job? Like, where did you go? Because you sort of have to get your feet super wet, right?
Absolutely.
Did you go off on your own and take pictures, and then somebody hired you? Like, how did that all work?
I started subbing at my local newspaper in Naples. That was the immediate. So I started as a concert photographer there during the summer, and that was my foot in the door. And I also learned uh, a lot about photography. Back then, you were developing black and white and printing, and it wasn't nothing digital existed yet. So it was an interesting phase, and then it evolved into what photography is today. But yeah, that's how I started. Uh, Kind of small local newspaper.
Yeah, but don't we all? I started writing in our small local newspaper back east when I was in college, right? And I just was
Exactly.
freelancing from one and then the next and then the next. But that's how you get good at what you're doing, right? So, what did mom and dad and all the relatives in Naples say when they're like, "Oh my gosh, Mario's photo is in the paper"? What did they say?
Well, they're still starstruck in that sense of seeing my
Ah,
stuff published, and I do it too. Sometimes I look at photos that I've taken. I'm like, it is my name under there. It's like it still surprises me almost that I am actually doing that, and I am at that stage of the career. But
right.
they're fascinated. They think that initially, obviously it wasn't exactly the working at Reuters. You started as freelance, and it's you never know where it's going to lead you. Your parents always wish for a safe desk job sometimes.
Right, which is really not so safe after all, is it? Which
Exactly, it's a myth anyway.
Yeah, I used to
Even
tell my parents that. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take a desk job. And I've encouraged my kids not to. And they followed that. They made sure that they're not doing desk jobs either. I mean, unless that's something you're suited for, which is perfectly fine, of course. But
unless
it
that's your
seemed
passion, then
exactly.
follow that, which also essential in seeking your to some extent we should all follow our vocation and our passion so that we are
So
happy
you were
at every stage.
You were doing local photography in Naples. How did you get noticed? And I know you work for Reuters. You've been working for them for years. We're going to build up to that, but tell us and how you got some notoriety, how the whole journey happened, and you ended up here in Hollywood.
Well, there was an Italian photo agency, pretty prominent. Actually, the name is La Presse. They were
Oh yeah.
instrumental in me coming here. So I remember a stack of 35 black and white prints. I hopped on the train from Naples and I went to Turin, which is where they are headquartered.
Hmm.
And I was hired on the spot to come to Los Angeles and cover entertainment for them. So
Okay.
uh, in less than a month and a half, I had a visa and I moved here. I found a place that became the office, the La Presse office, and for a few years I covered entertainment for them, which in terms of Hollywood entertainment, I knew nothing about it. It was I arrived here in '97, and I uh, I had to establish an office from scratch, and it was interesting. It was challenging. It was exciting, and it's also you are your own boss, which is very stimulating. Because if you
How
succeed, it's yourself.
how did you gain the trust of the Hollywood community? Because look, we've all been on the red carpet on the other side, right, of that rope,
Correct.
and we're all yelling for that photo, right, or that interview. And the fact that you came here and didn't know many people at all, how did you build that?
Um, Well, first is I think instrumental is the type of photography you do. I
Mm,
always did events where you were invited, where that were official, et cetera, et cetera. So where press is invited, and that was
right.
an important thing. Also, obviously, once I was hired by Reuters, I was privileged with different access, and where you are in contact a lot more, rubbing elbows with the people you're actually photographing, the talent, the celebrities, and so it's a different. It's always a very restricted number of photographers, 4 or 5 maximum. So generally, it's always the same faces, and
Mm,
they sort of remember you, and this trust gets established with years of
mm.
presence, and but it can be lost in a day if if you do something wrong, and so it's important to um, that you move correctly in the Hollywood um, little small circle that is the one of agencies like Reuters and other ones that are very prominent.
Hmm. Talk to me about that trust because you're right. In Hollywood, trust is everything. They want to trust that you're going to make them look good. They want to trust that you have their back. Talk to me about that. People don't realize that, but it is.
It is, and maybe not in a red carpet opportunity. We're lucky enough that we get invited to shoot portraits. So
Mm,
obviously, that becomes a lot more personal. You
mm,
spend 5, 10 minutes alone with the talent, and it's not a red carpet environment where everyone is screaming and there's no attention.
right.
You try. There's a small short connection in those 5 to 10 minutes, and where they know you're looking to get the best out of that photo, and and they trust you because the studio trusts you, and therefore they trust you. And
Mm.
some talent still wants to have a glance, and there hasn't been one time that someone hasn't said, "Oh, I don't like this." So I guess so far, uh,
That's
I've been
extraordinary,
I've been
Mario.
doing something.
Extraordinary.
I've been doing something okay because you don't want to disappoint someone when you show them the photo. It's like, I'm not excited about seeing myself.
So, La Presse, from there, you then jumped to Reuters, right? Which was sort of the
Yes,
dream
pretty
job for
much.
you.
It was.
Yeah.
It was also because I always I started with a daily newspaper, so I am a journalist at
Hmm.
the core of it, and I think my photos also always showed that. I was seizing on little moments, a glimpse of spontaneity that you see in this sort of Hollywood prefabricated situation. So it was always a glimpse of editorial journalistic approach rather than picture of good-looking statues, if you know what I mean. And so at the core of, I'm a journalist, and therefore Reuters was the dream job because I could do entertainment, but with that journalistic sense. It was the perfect job for me, and I still consider Reuters the most reputable agency in the world. So,
well, it's international. It's
exactly
international,
so.
right?
And also, I always thought that offered me the opportunity to eventually travel the world if I wanted to.
Which you did, right? There was that kid at 18 who almost joined the Navy to travel the world.
Exactly.
But instead you ended up with a camera in your hand to travel the world, and you fulfilled your passion.
And I came to Los Angeles.
Yeah, and you came to Los Angeles. I know you're married, you have 2 children. But let's talk again back to the work. My engineer, if he could pull up some of the photos that you've done, maybe we could talk about them. Could you talk a little about some of the photos? I mean, he could just sort of run through them.
Absolutely. And then that was Mark Hamill was one of my growing up idols. And, I'm a product of the 70s. So therefore, the original Star Wars are it's core memories. And meeting him and spending a half hour, and this is only one photo of many that we shot, or walking around the convention center in Los Angeles, finding spots, and there was Luke Skywalker in front of me. So
wow,
that was definitely a very good moment. This one is interesting because this was at the Beverly Hilton, and this was an impromptu portrait where we had to find immediately a place outside the room to shoot this quick portrait, and it was literally outside the room on a patio, and we found a little bit of a light that we could use, and this was the product that came out, and he was very happy.
Honestly, that's one of the best lit photos that I've ever seen. It's beautiful, and to find out that it was so impromptu, that makes it even more interesting.
We walked out of one of the sliding doors.
Wow, wow!
I mean, we need to find it here. Mark is not walking anywhere around the hotel. I'm like, I understand it.
It's beautiful. Now here we go. Here's Ringo. Do we love Ringo? I mean,
yes, absolutely. I mean, he's an exceptional man. I've shot his portraits more than once, and he is an elbow. He's like, I don't want to catch anything, mate. It's because he's on tour sometimes, and I remember one time I had to shoot this photo, and he was on tour, so he elbow shakes, but it's very kind, very gracious, and he gives you about 2 minutes and a half, and then
he's out.
Done. But in the best sense possible. He's not impatient about it. It's just and you have to understand, and you have to be okay. That's great.
Okay, but could you imagine the life that he's led? I happen to have, to this day, since I was 2 years old, a crush on Paul McCartney. Sorry, Ringo, but imagine the life they've had to lead. They'd have to keep running from place to place. So it's probably in his DNA to just do it quick. Am I right?
Exactly. So I'm like 3 minutes with Ringo. I'm blessed. Where he paid attention to me because he had to, and so the photo works. They know. And a blessing, Adam. I'm blessed that every year he invites a small group of media to his birthday. Yes, this one also
there we
was
go.
Good.
Mariah, but hey, we're going to get back to
Mariah.
Wait, we're going to get back to that birthday
Ringo.
thing later, because if you ever need to bring anyone with you, you just give me a call. I'll happily go to Ringo Starr's birthday.
We celebrated his 80-something this year again, and we were there.
Oh my God, that's like a dream.
Yep,
okay, Mariah, let's go to Mariah.
Mariah was,
photo.
I think this was at the Four Seasons, and they had a set built for her for this portrait.
Oh.
So
wow.
I arrived and the set was built, and I tested the lights with someone else so that when Mariah would be in there, you know, the time was very limited.
Yeah.
Extremely limited, less than 3 minutes. I always say,
Oh,
like, I
wow.
think less than 3 minutes, because in the end, it's true. If you have that connection and everything is ready, um, and obviously you have professional talent that knows what to do. So she walked in, and actually we waited almost all day because of delayed in production, et cetera, et cetera. And kindly enough, everyone waiting at some point got champagne. So we were treated
Ah,
to champagne because Mariah was late, and this was at the Four Seasons, and so she finally appeared and super gracious, and she walks in the set, and we had already tested everything we could test, so that it was
yeah, it was
she
done.
just had
You
to,
know,
and 3 minutes she was done.
wow, there's another one. Jodie Foster. What a beautiful photo of Jodie, I have to
Thank
say.
you,
That is a stunning photo. Her eyes, you really captured her.
thank
She
you.
looks intense, intelligent, because we all know she is
She's
beautiful.
extremely intelligent, extremely intelligent.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask my engineer. We can just sort of roll through them quickly. We don't even have to necessarily talk about each one,
Oh, because
but
we
I'm
can
going to.
talk each one. This one was by window, and
Oh, wow.
she this is, you know, there isn't a hotel that we haven't photographed in, because that's where this press junket happens. So
Yeah.
Four Seasons. Oh, this was also a good story.
Yeah. Tell me, please tell our
Well,
audience.
she
They love
had.
this stuff.
I had to help her. She was leaning against the wall, um, um, because she had, I think, a knee injury or a leg injury.
Ah,
So I had to help her. Literally, she came in crutches, and I had to help her, and she was extremely nice. And I had to help her prop against the wall so she wouldn't be standing and put strain on her leg. So always nice to me. She has been, so even that was a good story.
it's such an art to do that, though, because, when I'm having my photo professionally taken, I'm a little nervous. And even though I trust my photographer, I'm nervous that I'm not performing the way I want to come across. Does that make sense? So you really have to put
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. So, what is your secret sauce that people just feel so at ease with you? Clearly, the body of work. They know they're going to come out looking fairly spectacular because of who you are. But what do you do to people to calm them down?
Well, as I think when we chatted yesterday, there was it's a very short time to make a good connection,
Right.
because you can sense when there's not a connection between the photographer and the subject. And
Right.
if it's not there, they can be friends or anything. But so you have a very short amount of time to make a little bit of a connection, some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And the trust comes from the fact that, obviously, you said the body of work, and I represent Reuters, which is an extremely reputable agency. So they know the content that we produce and that we put out, and also the trust of the studio. The
Mm.
studio invites three outlets to do this kind of
Yeah.
portrait where it's extremely private. So there isn't a large pool of outlets that participate.
Right.
So they already know that we are the selected ones, and they trust. And even though sometimes they want to get a glimpse of the photo just out of curiosity, and I have always obliged, because especially there's also sometimes I have a flack of makeup artists and hairdressers and publicists just hovering over my shoulders as I shoot, and then I look and I show everyone, and you know I'm still there. Therefore,
Mm.
I'm still, and
Now,
also they know that I can be quick, that which is very
mm,
essential sometimes for them. They don't want to be bogged down with a 25-minute portrait. That would be unthinkable.
wow.
They want five
Thank,
minutes and and
wow.
and perfect, nice.
Okay. Couple of rapid fire questions to you. I know Mark Hamill was your big sort of aha moment, but
Absolutely.
other than Mark, or we could talk about Mark, um, when someone walked into the room, did you go, ooh, like just sort of take back, step back for a moment and say, they're
I,
here? Like what,
not
who,
in
who would
that
that be?
sense. I don't think I've
Really?
ever been starstruck. Um,
Ah,
I think because in that sense, like a fan, like I've never fanned out, like what the saying, and I've been an admirer, like another someone that I've never photographed that I wish I did shoot portraits on. I've photographed him in public contests, but is Harrison Ford, another one whom I grew up with. So is um, one that I am missing that I wish I could,
wait,
but it has never
Harrison,
happened.
you've never shot Harrison?
I shot him in at events, but never shot a portrait of him. Where like it's special, it's different. You, as I said, you make a brief connection, but you make it. It's
Yeah.
if you're capable. Not everyone is, and you have to. It's a skill also that you develop with experience.
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah. Now, other than some of the celebrity photos, you went on record as talking about shooting one of the fires in Los Angeles. That was quite extraordinary. We might have that in our repertoire if my engineer can find it. But what was that like being on the scene as a photojournalist shooting a fire? I've been there and I know how terrifying it is. And to capture that moment is really something. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Um, a small portion of my work is breaking news,
Yeah.
because I'm still a staff photographer with who specializes in entertainment. So the 20% of my coverage is breaking news, and that
Mm,
includes wildfires in California and Southern California. I mean, I've covered since 2005. I've covered some major wildfires in our forests, and they're devastating. And
yeah.
um, we get trained, and we have proper gear. We don't venture without being prepared, because sometimes you're all alone, and it can be serious, and it's not a joke to cover a forest fire. And when you're deep in the forest, trying to get a good photo that shows the magnitude, then you always have to be very watchful. We're very prepared, and we have all the gear that is necessary, but common sense, and remember some training, and follow the directions of the firefighters, and remember that they're there first, and to do something, it's very important.
Hmm.
But it's
What
um it's adrenaline, definitely. It's not a red carpet, and it's when you have to
what
watch.
we talked earlier about Ringo Starr. What's it like being backstage at a concert? That
um,
must be really fun, right?
Usually I shoot the concert part. I wish I was backstage, um, so I shoot the performances part,
Hmm.
and it's
Wow.
amazing. I think it's still my favorite part of I started as a subbing as a concert photographer for my daily newspaper in Naples. So that was
Right.
the first thing, and then obviously then I end up
Wow.
photographing everyone who's in the music industry, and I think it's still my favorite part of the job. It's the performances, the music, and also
Wow.
because I get to see exactly like this photo, like these duets that um, are orchestrated only at these big events like American Music Awards or special awards or Grammys, and so it's I don't just see a concert. I see all these special performances, and they're always the more fun, exciting, exhilarating. And I've covered Coachella several times. Although I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little old for Coachella now at 50, but it's still
Wow. What a photo.
yeah. This is Prince at
Wow.
Coachella. Exactly.
Absolutely. And I knew who it was from that beautiful silhouette. You do capture a mood, Mario. How do you do that? Is it the camera? Is it the lens? Is it you? Is it all of it? Because that was quite a photo. And the one that passed earlier with Ringo and Paul, it has a quality to it. What is it that you do that I'm not doing with my iPhone? Why don't you tell?
I,
Oh, wow,
I
look at
couldn't
that.
tell you exactly. I don't know. I don't know the recipe, but um, that I was always told that I would look at something that was slightly different. Not necessarily offbeat, but off the beat path. And I don't think about intentionally. I think it's just the way I always approached it since the very beginning. It was always
Mm,
that way. I can still remember the first concerts I shot at when I was 19, and I was still
mm.
the the photographer, kind of finding the different angles. So I think it was like I either approach it that way or don't. And I guess
Hmm.
it it did work so far.
And now here you are in Los Angeles, living the life that you've dreamed of. You're married with two children. We talked about that, and you met your wife at the Grammys, right? I mean, what a
Correct.
fun place! That place, I love that place. I love the Grammys. Going every
The
year is
energy is
always
incredible.
incredible to be around those artists. It's
Incredible.
quite a minute, right? But tell me a little bit about the moment that you two met, you and your wife.
We were okay. This is a good story actually. The We had known each other for a while,
Ah,
and because of working, and I was in Houston to cover the
mm,
Latin Grammys, which is a part of the Umbrella Grammy. And the Latin Grammys were in Houston, and
right.
the night before, as I'm crossing the street uh, to go meet her for drinks with other friends and colleagues, I was run over by a car.
Oh.
Slowly, but on an intersection. Yeah, I was unharmed except my phone. But so I remember being at the hospital, and she came,
Oh,
and she said, because she heard and she felt sorry, and she said, "Well, we're going to have to grab this drink another time." I'm like, "Yes," because tomorrow I have the show, and I'm just going to go back to the hotel and rest up after flying on
oh
the
my
hood of a
goodness.
car. I know. The
Oh
next day I shot
no.
the show, everything was fine. I did buy a special candle that I'll still save somewhere because I was completely unarmed. Um, and it was November. Then in April, we went finally after months because it was
Oh,
November. Then award season for me is Oscars, Grammys,
yeah.
SAG Awards, Critics' Choice, Independent Spirit. You know, so finally in April we went, and our first date hasn't ended yet after 13 years. So we're still from that very day in April.
You're still having a
Here we are.
beautiful time. Yeah,
I
I
think
love
so.
that.
I mean,
Oh,
when
I
you
do
have
love
kids,
that.
it's always challenging, but
Oh yeah.
we're
I
still
mean,
there.
yeah, we've got three of them, so I know how that goes. But then you
Exactly.
just sort of expand that date. Now it's the five of you. For us, it's the five of us. For you, it's the.
Absolutely.
I feel like we take them along. So whatever it is, they just come along for the ride with us. We've never
Absolutely.
been.
As they should.
Yeah, we've never sort of left them home. If we had work that we needed to do, as long as we were able to, we take them just because we wanted them to see the world too. So,
Absolutely.
gosh, have you raised any little photographers? Either your kids enjoy?
They both enjoy cameras,
Mm.
and sometimes they say Giorgio, and most of the times they're like, we want to be chefs.
Ah,
So that's what they say.
that's nice. Um, so what would you say, Mario, to your younger self, right? Here you are, you have such a beautiful career that hopefully will extend for another 40, 50 years of your life or as long as you want. But what would you say to your younger self as you're sitting in Naples and wondering, gosh, what's going to become of me? What would you say to him?
I would say follow your passion like you did, and also be exploratory. Go out there and see what I would have never imagined when I was 25 years ago. When it was 25 years ago that I would be where I am today, and if someone told me, I would have not believed them. So I went no knowing, and it's kind of like a tile always fell in front of the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I think I'm very blessed that it happened, and It's not necessarily the path that everyone follows, or not everyone is lucky that they end up in this position. So I would say follow your genuine passion, so that one day you never feel like you're actually going to work. I still
Mm.
have fun. I'm still excited to go, and because it's always different, and it always renews itself. The world of entertainment, but even the world of general news, and it'll never be the same. And so it's always exciting for me, even after
Yeah.
25 years here. But obviously, I've been a photographer since I was 19. I am 50 now, so I still find the excitement in it.
Yeah, the art in it. It's all about the art, right? You're creating something for somebody else, right? You want them to look their best, and it's about painting their portrait, essentially, isn't it?
And also when it's nice to see people lingering on a photo. It means
Oh,
that
yeah.
it makes them, it attracts them, it captivates them, and so it's I know that today is the era of snippets of video, TikTok, but a photo allows you to linger if you desire.
Mm,
So
beautiful.
and that's my passion.
Do you get back home often to Naples to see family, maybe to shoot
Yes,
family, to talk to family? What's the family saying? Not just mom and dad, but I'm talking
I
all
have
the aunts
13
and uncles and
cousins, and
but
13
wait, say that again.
cousins, 13 cousins,
Wow.
and my mom was one of six, is one of
Mm-hmm.
six. So there's uncles, aunts. I was there less than a month ago
Mm-hmm.
for 2 weeks of beach time close to
Yeah.
Naples, and it's they said sometimes I'm nostalgic of Italy and all the family roots, and uh, my family always says yes, but you're doing something that is very special and that you worked hard at it, and
Yeah.
emotionally it's still hard. You left your roots, uh, but you're making new roots.
You're making new roots for your kids and their kids, and I know exactly how that feels because I left mine too. So
Yeah,
it
you
can be
know.
difficult, and then you try to recreate it a little bit, but it's never quite the same. But going back and seeing them, you get a little shot of it, even though it can be a little sad. But they must be excited, right? They must go, "Oh, Mario, look at the
Absolutely.
photo." Do they want to hear
Absolutely.
stories? Do they want to hear like all the stories and stuff, or no?
Not so much. They know that, like,
Uh,
trust is the rule number one, but discretion is rule number two.
mm-hmm.
And so they know that I'm I wouldn't, pretty much, even if I had knowledge
Yeah.
of things. So they just admire the work, and they're happy that everything is doing great, and that people appreciate my photography.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you're right. Discretion is everything. And I often say to people, look, I couldn't even tell you where a body is buried. I just can't do it. I'm sworn to that code and I have to stick to it. So, gosh, Mario, thank you so
I hear
much
you.
for joining me. Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience and some budding photographers, perhaps, who are watching
Um,
this and saying, gosh, I want to do that? Anything you'd say to them?
um, well, first, I would say to photographers to don't be demoralized. It's definitely a tougher business than it was 25 years ago, but
Mm,
everything is. It's cyclical,
yeah.
and I think you just have to adapt to the new times, just like I did.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged. And like I said, I think if you do something, you have a true passion for it, you never feel like you're working. And
Yeah.
and if you're blessed enough to make a living out of what's your passion, then
It's
I
a great
think
thing.
that's the yes, indeed. It's you never work a day in your life.
Hmm. Well, Mario, thank you so
And
much
also
for.
one last thing, it's I'm still very proud of being Italian. It's
Yeah, it's right here, right? It's
yeah,
right here.
absolutely, absolutely.
What
I'm
what
happy to
is
represent. That's important.
is there a memory you'd like to share with us? But I mean, I'm supposed to be letting you go, but we'll go for another couple of minutes. You say you're proud to be Italian. What does that mean to you? Does that mean your family? Does it mean tomato sauce? Like, what does it mean when you say, I'm proud to be Italian?
It means a lot of things, I think, and it's just your roots. And I think that where I am today, or who I
Yeah.
am, it's also because I grew up there. I grew up in Naples, which is uh, like it's sort of broad Queens. You know, it's a tough place to grow up, where
Yeah.
life teaches you a lot of hard lessons. And I think even that was instrumental in giving me some teachings for to succeed where I am today. Um, I don't know if I would be here if that wasn't my background or my roots or the challenges that I had to face in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many.
Yeah.
There is many in every industry, but so I think that strengthened my resolve rather. Refine my acumen and and finding solutions.
That's for sure. My family's also from the Naples region. I agree with you. It really, you have to learn how to survive. You have to learn how to compromise. There's so much there, right? I get it.
Completely. It's and make the best of what you have with the resources, which is essential.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, Mario Anzuoni, beautiful work. I appreciate the time that you've given me. And I know my audience will be excited to just sort of look up some of your work. Can you give a shout out to how they can find info about you and just look up some of your photos?
Thank you for having me, Deborah. It was great talking to you, and it
Yeah,
was
you
great to see
too.
you.
Very great to see you. And I hope to see you on one of these one day. I mean, that would be a lot of fun.
I think you
And
will.
again, I think so, because we probably run in a lot of the same circles, but they can go to your website too, right? If they want to see your work.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
MarioAnzuoni.com.
Yeah. Thank you. And we'll be seeing you soon, Mario. Thank you for the time. And thank you, everybody, for
Thank
joining
you.
our show, Deborah Kobylt Live and Little Italy Podcast, also Little Italy of LA Podcast. You can find our interview with Mario. We will be posting videos, promos rather, of our interview with Mario all over YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And then the audio version of our show, you can find us on Apple, you can find us on Amazon, just about anywhere you get your podcast, you'll find us. Just look us up. And Mario Anzuoni. Thank you all for joining us. Tell your friends about us, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.